passe l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. 25 points. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Rasmus
Lauge
Schmidt.
What a player. What a champion. And Denmark are world champions for the third time running, coming out 34-29 winners in a fantastic final against France. Congrats to Denmark. Congrats to the people of Denmark for another great victory. And I do hope to see the whole team in the town square in Copenhagen eating their pancakes for the third time in a row. So congratulations to Denmark. I am Alex Kulesh. I am, of course, joined by Chris O'Reilly.
Kom så Denmark.
And Brian Campion.
Hello there. I don't speak Danish, so well, congratulations, Denmark.
It was an incredible final. I think it lived up to it. Chris, you were there in the arena. How did it feel?
Yeah, it was great. The whole day was great. What a day. What a final day. What a fucking long final day. But it was all, in its own way, quite entertaining. And the final was magnificent. It was, although the final scoreline is kind of one-sided, it's not in a bad way in the end. You know, it was a close game for the vast majority of the contest. And it looked really dodgy at the start, though, right? With Denmark coming out really strong. We were like, oh, God. I think, Brian, you said, I hope it's not going to be a shit game now. All your confidence in France's victory gone. But no, great atmosphere. And it was only with the national anthems beforehand that I truly realised how many Danes were in the arena. Because, you know, among all the yellow in the 23,000 in the end that were there, it's hard to measure just how many fans are in there, but when they can actually turn the volume down on the national anthem and have enough people there to sing it out, it showed how many Danes were there. And the French, of course, they sang their hearts out, and it set everything up very nicely, I think, for what was to be, just somebody. There were great storylines in this game.
So many great storylines, but I think I'm probably jumping ahead a bit too ahead of myself there, because I feel I have to defend France a little bit, because I did predict them to win. I did say they might win by 5, but that was me predicting also that at least one of the French goalkeepers would show up, and I didn't realise that. I think, was it between them they only made 3 saves in the end, was it, or something along those lines? It was very low anyway. And you can't win a final like that when you have keepers performing in that way. And that's a bit of a shame. But I did see a lot of people online talking about how, this is going to be Denmark 1-3 now. It's going to be Danish dominance for the next few years. I don't see anyone beating them. I wouldn't quite say that. I think if had the French goalkeepers, either one of them showed up, I think it would have been a much closer game. And it was actually pretty incredible that France were able to keep it that close and have such bad goalkeepers on the day. So that was impressive in its own right, that the game was kept so close despite.
Can I just say here, though, between Gerrard and Debonnet, they ended up with 7 saves. Denmark had 11 saves. So it wasn't that much of a difference in the goalkeeper battle.
But I felt like when the moments that the French team needed big saves, that nothing came. And afterwards, a lot of people were saying, Landin, he was a bit average. All he did is made some clutch saves. I was like, well, yeah, they were really important. They were really important saves in certain moments. And I think the emphasis on those saves were huge. Like that, after Pitlick scored that underarm shot, I was like, that's the nail in the coffin. Do you know that? Late in the second half. And then Landin directly afterwards made the save. And I said, well, if that was the nail in the coffin, that's a bit of dirt on the coffin. That was really the end of it all. And I think that was just, France didn't have those moments where you think, okay, he needs to pull off a save now, Gerrard or Remy, and just nothing really came. And I think, it just felt like they really weren't there.
But yeah, Denmark flew into the lead, and that was when basically France didn't have a goalkeeper at the start. But it was really impressive. So Denmark were 5 goals up with 15 minutes played. They looked really good. Simon Pitlick was putting on an absolute show. Really, he just took it upon himself to be that guy. the same way we kind of saw Giesel do previously, where there was no fear. This guy is a debutant at a championship. He's really only had 2 seasons of top-level handball with Gay, and he was incredible. And after the first half as well, we could see that Mikkel Hansen was just not doing anything. And apparently that was because he got injured in the Spain game. So TV2 were reporting that Mikkel Hansen did have an injury, and the Danish team just hid that to ensure that France don't plan for a whole different setup. And you could see that in the first half. Hansen didn't take a single shot. He was just standing there spraying passes either side to Giesel and Putlik. And it still worked.
Yeah, just getting out of the way, you know. It's like
Pretty
going
much
over to the side, drawing enough attention, and then letting the boys go and do the running.
But he's like an orchestrator. He was standing in front of his musicians, and he was like, "Oh, here you go, Giesel," and then there's the piano coming in. Pianos aren't really in the orchestra, are they?
I get what you mean, though. It was nice. Apart from getting the instruments wrong, it was nice.
Yeah. But France then. So Hansen did come off because he didn't have it. I think the ultimate plan was to bring Lauge on. We'll get to Lauge in a little bit, but France just stayed in it. I was surprised that the score, going into halftime was 16-15, and they were just getting through that Danish defense, spraying out wide as well. That they were spreading it, and I think Remily was really, really good in that first half. He took it upon himself to be that guy for France, and he made sure to keep them in the game. And you're going into the second half, and you're thinking, yeah, we have a game. We have an absolute game. Hansen's left the game now. France are looking good. They've done this without a goalkeeper. All they need is a couple of saves in the second half, and we have a game. And it got level. It got really intense in the middle there. But Chris, as you predicted, some random Danes are going to come on and do something special.
I'm glad that prediction came true.
It was special, wasn't it?
You mentioned Hansen there starting as kind of like basically an injured backcourt player. France did the same thing, and with Karabatic in there, he went like all the talk before the game was, "Oh, Nikola Karabatic can barely walk," and so I focused my whole watching the warm up on him, and he was popping about, he was doing his thing, but he was like, when it came to the backcourt shooting. In the warm-up, he was the guy who was rather passing the ball to the shooters than doing the shooting. And I was like, he is just there to be a bit of a cheerleader. But then he starts at left back and he's playing wing defense, and it's just like, wait a second, where have all the left backs gone? Where have all of France's left backs gone? Because Thibaut Brier couldn't shoot. He wasn't in the squad because he had stitches in his finger. Prandy had, wrist, ankle, everything wrong with him. You knew he would come on anyway. I mean, he's been stabbed a year ago. Like it's going to take more than a bit of a wrist and ankle injury to stop him. But I think him coming on in the first half is what helped France get back in, because it was kind of like both teams in a World Championship final were carrying their talisman like on their shoulders in the backcourt, and like. It feels really weird that both Hansen and Karabatic were playing this game. It was just like too big to not play, but they were actively not helping both of the teams.
If I had my conspiracy hat on, if I had my tinfoil on, I'd say the IHF and the TV broadcasters put in a little request for those two superstars to start, for all the people who are watching to know somebody at least on the court. And that would be my...
Your old friends, Miguel Hansen and Nikola Karabatic.
Before we move on from the start of the game there, did it feel like to you, because when I was watching it, at the first few minutes, I was like, God, France are really struggling with the pace of this game at the moment. It felt like it took them a good maybe 10 minutes to really get going, because Denmark just came out and just were flying all over the place.
That was another thing we spoke about beforehand, that Giesel and Pitlick now, who's also there, was not going to allow France to do what they did to them in the Olympic final, and trap Giesel over and over again. And they needed to play incredibly fast. They needed to be as fearless as Pitlick was. I think you said fearless. That's the first thing I wrote in my notes here. Pitlick, fearless at the start, and he was. I think Denmark saw the way to victory, or at least to an early lead, and basically to do what Sweden couldn't do on Friday, and just really allow no contact in the backcourt, and just to move themselves in the counterattack and also in set play.
The other crucial moment in the first half, and I think it may have decided the game, or it was Ludovic Fabregas getting his second 2-minute suspension at about 20 minutes. Both suspensions coming from just reefing Giesel. Giesel, he just got past these too fast. We've seen it many times, and the player that we lauded in this championship, Ludovic Fabregas, probably the best defender in the world, arguably the best defender in the world, couldn't handle him. He got 2 minutes and had to sit down for a long time. And even when he came back on, he had to be careful. And I think getting into foul trouble really was detrimental to this French defense, especially in that second half, because it was incredible seeing, we talk about Denmark as a team that has progressed to the new style of handball, where it's all breakthroughs, it's all one-on-one, it's all 6-meter shots that they're aiming for. And the old boys, Lauge and Mads Wenzel Larsen, just came in and started rocketing shots from 9-10 meters.
And we did get a little taste of that already in the first half, which also feels really genius, when Kirkelucke went into right back and Giesel was put out in the wing. It was only for a couple of minutes, but they did the same move again, wing switch. Giesel went back out there. That opened up a little bit of space. France were like, oh, okay, Giesel, he's gone over there. Whew. Kirkelucke comes in, boom, boom. 2 goals from 9 meters. And that's it. And like that whole Kirkelucke story is just genius. Like, how did they stumble upon this solution? I was staring at them right in the face with what they've been doing on the other side of the court forever. But what a story for him as well, to come from like being 4th choice right back to starring in a world final in his own way. And I just wonder if like the fact that he was given this role is like, Nicholas, you're actually going to be our key defender on this side. And then the attack doesn't matter so much. I don't know if that just gave him a lot more. He looked like a different man in these games. I've never seen him look so strong and confident. He's always been a little, he's got a great shot, but, Kirkelucke. But this time, in this final, he looked like he truly belonged. So that's just another one that really stood out for me in the first half.
Absolutely. So in a second, we let's get on to Rasmus Lauge, because that's an incredible story. He had played 23 minutes in the competition so far. He scored 0 goals from 3 goals. And at one stage, he was about to book his train ticket home because he didn't think that he could get past his injury. But he did a late medical test around just before that semi-final, got the all clear. And in the semi-final, he also just didn't participate. But in this final, he was a man possessed. He just, he's definitely one of those players that's who's a born winner. He's the type of guy who's won his whole career. He is part of teams that win, and he's a big reason why teams win, because he has this mentality of, you're not going to beat me. And you have to be such a mentality monster to come in the second half of the World Championship and produce a display like that. 10 goals from 11 shots, absolute rockets from the backcourt, and more than that, he was able to break through when France stepped up. He was able to break through as well. He's going around on the left side, on the right side. He did everything. It was an incredible performance.
Yeah, the breakdown of the goals, 3 from 3 from 6 meters, 3 from 4 from 9 meters, 1 fast break, and 3 from 3 breakthroughs. And you spoke about him being a mentality monster, but this is also a guy who has been crippled by injuries over the years as well.
Yeah.
And suffering with an injury that could have put him out of this championship, yet, and I don't know if that has a part to play in it, like once he finally gets his chance, like this is the final, who cares if I break everything again? It was something really old school about his performance as well. It was a joy. And every time I threw my hands in the air that he, like, how did these shots keep going in? It belongs in 2013, but it's getting the job done.
How much blame do you put on the goalkeepers for that, Brian? Where in the second half, there was a lot of 9-meter shots that were rocketing in from Lauge and Mads Spencer-Larsen. Do you put that also on the French goalkeepers?
I mean, it's hard to just lump it all on the French goalkeepers. I mean, because the French players got to that position in the first place. But I just think France, when they needed, they didn't even need that many, really. Just 3 or 4 good saves. And I think they maybe got there was 2 moments where where Gerrard saved 2 big shots. It was one Gerrard and one from Desvonnet. And apart from that, I didn't really have those stand out of your seat moments where, like, for example, when Kevin Muller came on, and he did really make a few crucial saves for them. And I think just in a final, you need that when the momentum's going against you, and they just didn't have it. And that's a really a tough situation for the French defense to be put in when you're relying on just some key moments. You just didn't get them, and it felt like something really didn't go their way. I was reading on Twitter as well that a lot of people were saying that it felt like a lot of the 50-50 decisions were all going Denmark's way in terms of the referee, and I don't know if you felt that.
I don't know. I think it's one of those where if one team has the momentum, it feels like they're getting the decisions. I didn't really get that feeling. I was, rooting for Denmark, so maybe that colored things a little bit. So maybe I'm not fully objective here, but it is just one of those games where Denmark had the momentum and it feels like everything is going their way, but that's because everything is going their way in the whole game. But there wasn't any big, really wrong decisions.
Yeah, I think that the Pitlick one where he stepped in support on the wing, I had to went to the screen for that one. That probably would have been a red card, as people were saying. And then the Pitlick off the court then is a big difference for Denmark, obviously. But
actually, wait, there is one decision that was clearly wrong, and it was ridiculous that was called. The French never land inside when shooting a wing shot. I have never seen a Frenchman called for standing inside while shooting a wing shot. And when Yannis Lan got called for that, you knew the game was over.
Yeah, there's an agenda there against them. One more thing as well, like it's amazing how jealous people are of Gietsel now at the moment. It's all online. Like it's like every video you put up of him now is he's traveling, and the video we put up of him yesterday of him, the spin he did, that's not a travel. That's 0 step plus 3 steps. It's perfect. It's a perfect example of the 0 step plus 3 steps, and all the retweets, or not all the retweets, so about 50% of the retweets are all steps. He's on a run. He's on a marathon. It's just like, I think people are completely blurred their vision. He does do it now and again, but that was not an example of it.
Yeah, I think on that one, the slow-mo really exaggerates the 0 step, because the 0 step, you're never going to get perfectly 2 feet on the ground. Like, that's not possible. And you probably shouldn't do it because that's how you break an ACL. So, it's always going to be some difference between the feet landing. But it was a 0 step, and then he took his 3 steps. And I think with the speed that Giesel moves, it's hard to catch that. And, the slow-mos always exaggerate things. So I think with that particular one, it was a very clean move.
But just looking at this is not about so much 50-50 calls, but the things that, without looking back in the game again, you can see 2-minute suspensions and penalties. Denmark were given more 2-minute suspensions, 4-3, and France were given more penalties, 7-1. So it's not like they were being denied the clear things, and you would probably, if you were trying to look at the other way around, you're like, oh, one team got 1 penalty, the other got 7. There's something wrong here, but it was France who benefited from that side of it. But yeah, the only thing about the 5 steps is that the slow-mo gives it, as Alex said, it gives it a different sheen. But that was in the second half. There was I looked like that introduction of Lauge. It was like the battle of the impact playmakers in that third quarter, because both teams went for it. Because Mahe was brought in for France, Lauge was brought in for Denmark, and they almost had kind of Mahe had a kind of a characteristically a good start, but then ended up missing some very important shots for the team, particularly one on the break, which was, I think, Muller's first save, that like arm over the top into the corner where he probably shouldn't have taken it on. And then Lauge was just scoring for fun. So that was a real victory there for Denmark in an important phase of the game where they re-established their control.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to kind of my question about the goalkeepers and their role in Denmark's kind of momentum in the second half. It's not necessarily about making all the saves. It's about making the save at the right time. So Kenta Mahe was in really good form. He was breaking through, but he missed the crucial shot, or his shot was saved. And I think his confidence took a hit. He went 1 from 4 in the game. He also missed the 7 meters. But if he had scored that one and got on a bit of a roll, and then you could see Kenta Mahe continuing, we've seen Kenta Mahe do incredible things in 15 minutes where he gets like 5 goals, 5 assists. But a stop at the right time just completely derailed his momentum. While on the other side, we just saw Lauge growing and growing until a stage where it looked like he was 3 meters tall and could do whatever he wants because no save came to stop his momentum. I think that's a good point about the matchup of the two impact playmakers.
Despite all of that, it was super close towards the end again. There was only 2 goals between them. Mads Mensel-Larsen had done his job. He was taken off. Pitlick comes back in again, scores a ridiculous goal. The fearlessness coming back in, and Denmark with a victory. And it's just something so special about Denmark in these finals these days. I mean, yes, they lost the Olympic final a year and a half ago. And going back to what we said at the very beginning about Denmark dominating, we know that's not going to be the case because you can still, you never know what's going to happen on the day. But gone are the days from like when we probably started watching these finals regularly. At first, Denmark getting spanked by Spain in the World Championship final, Denmark getting spanked by France in the Euro final at home. Something really has changed about this team where that's never going to happen to them again. And it showed in the players who came on that there's something about this team, even though they might not play at all for the whole championship, that they all have the confidence in themselves and the confidence from the coach to come in and just make some ridiculous impact in the final when it's necessary. And that is a huge credit to Nikolaj Jakobsen.
He's done an incredible job with this Danish team. Both, I think, embracing the youth, you have to commend him for that. The fact that he did just believe in Pitlick and just put him in saw that he was having a great start to the tournament and said, you are our key player now. And by the time of the final, he was the key player. He did the same with Giesel a couple of years back, and giving those players, it's very easy for a coach to just say, Mads Mensa Larsen has been with me for years. I'm confident in his abilities. So when the crunch time comes, sit down, Simon Putlik. Mads Mensa is the starting left back. But a lot of coaches would do that. Jakobsen gave this trust in the youth, and also ensured that the old heads and the experienced heads were still there and ready to contribute. And it's easier for a Lauge or Mads Mensa to come in at those stages because they are more experienced compared to the other situation where you start Mads Mensa and then you expect Putlik to come in and make an impact. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy. So commend him to that. His tactical setup with Kirkluka coming in, he identified defense as a crucial issue. The Croatia game and then the USA game, to react drastically after the USA game also takes a lot of balls, or a lot of
cojones.
Cojones. I don't know. Maybe that's not even the right word, but to hold yourself and the team accountable for a game that didn't matter is a really big step from a coach, and to hold all of the players accountable and to come up with a moment of brilliance that was Kirkluka. I wonder if it was just like a shower thought. I can imagine Nikolaj Jakobsen waking up, having a shower, and then dreaming of his Fleskestad, and then thinking, "Oh, Kirkluka, I could do it."
I was looking at the the stars that he has tattooed in his arm for each of the major championships.
Dodgy tattoos.
Dodgy tattoos, yeah. But he's like, oh, where would I put the next one? He looks over to his left hand. He's like, yes, Nicholas Kirkluka is left-handed. We could do the same as we do on the left-hand side, but with a left-hander.
And then even in this game, he started with Jakobsen on the left wing instead of Magnus Landin. I'm not really sure why.
Because there was the near side. It was easier to make the subs on the near side. So because Kirkluka was on the, he was covering the far side. I think he was satisfied enough that against France they could make 2 defensive substitutions. That was. I'm guessing that's what I was thinking there.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of key decisions, and I suppose it's a difference to, let's say, Jordi Ribera for Spain, where he got a lot of great praise for in-game management, for really making big decisions within a game to change the tide of a match. I think Nikolaj Jakobsen is a little bit different, where he makes changes before a game and he sets very, very good plans. And the aim is that if the plan is good enough from the start, we won't even need to change. But he still has thought through to change if needed. But his planning for games is so good that, Denmark are always favourites. They're always in the lead. And in most cases, they win goals.
Our Discord chat yesterday was quite active, and I remember I put in there that Simon Putlik was absolute gold yesterday, and I was thinking about that, why I said that, and I didn't say anything about Lauge. And I think obviously Lauge's performance was a surprise and also really, really impressive. But for me, somehow I just couldn't get away from the fact that how young Simon Putlik is and how much he took everything totally in his stride. And that was just so impressive that he could just do that in the final as well, and then just not wilt under the pressure. Like you said, Chris, earlier, about we've seen these Danish teams in the past when it comes to the big lights sometimes that they have, and how the culture has changed so much that we now have a Danish team and a Danish setup that you could throw a player like Putlik in, who had a great tournament up until this point as well, but then can also crush it in the final. It's just really, really incredible. But obviously not to take away from.
Yeah, and even Giesel had a bad final. Remember, was it the Olympic final where he was shut down? So my question is Simon Putlik even better than Giesel.
Oh, well. Everyone can have a bad game.
No, but like,
we just wait for the next final when someone tries to shut down Simon Pitlick. The problem is now there's not one of them. There's many of them, and more to come. Emil Madsen, another right back. Thomas Sommer Anderson, a centre back. Like, scary times for the rest of the world with young Danes. Before we go on to our alternative awards, should we just have a quick, because you mentioned Jordi Ribera there, just a quick word on the bronze medal game. What a lot of fun that was. Holy shit. What a game.
There was a clip online that I saw of the end of the first half, and there was 6 goals in 80 seconds scored between the two teams. It was 3-3 in that period. 6 goals in 80 seconds. And I think you have to just think of the fitness of the players here and just how incredibly conditioned these players are. They've played a full tournament. I've done 2 fast breaks in my lifetime, and I'm on the ground about to puke. But these players have played a full tournament, and they're able to like sprint at full capacity for 80 seconds. This is doing 800-meter sprints in a row at the end of a 3-week tournament. That's just incredible. And it was a great fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think both teams got a lot of good things out of it. Sweden finding themselves again in that first half, but bloody hell, Spain. Like, that started the second half, and I think that there's probably a lesson in there for Sweden somewhere. This whole final weekend, I don't know if it was just a little bit too much like their recipe for success last year, and then seeing that teams move on very quickly and develop very quickly and learn from the defeats very quickly. Whereas Sweden, once Gottfriedson was out, kind of reverted a little bit back to the recipe for success. But Spain at the start of that second half, a 6-1 run right at the beginning to like wipe out imagine all that brilliance in the first half just being evaporated in a matter of minutes at the start of the second half. When that happened, there was no way in hell that bronze was going to anyone else but Spain. Like, what a way to just destroy your opponent. Do we like Spain again after that performance?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you, Alex. You've been on quite the roller coaster with the Spanish team now, and I feel like you're there's a bit of a happy ending now to how you feel about this. Not that type of happy ending, but thank God this is behind the paywall. This part, but how do you feel about the Spanish team now at this moment? Oh, Christ. I'm sorry, Mum.
Sign up on Patreon.
For the live video, you do join our Patreon and you will get the very exclusive Triple X Club.
Yeah, Alex's happy ending with Spain. No, go on. Tell us what your feelings are with the Spanish team.
It has. You're right. It's been a real journey, because what I've learned is that I shouldn't go against Spain, even when my brain is telling me that they're not going to go through. I should just support them, because at the end of the day, that's the most fun. Because Spain they stay in games. Their games are the most fun because they have these ups and downs and this feeling that no game is ever finished until the very, very end. And we literally saw it at the very, very end in this tournament. So it's just incredible fun when you are on their side. It's extremely frustrating if you're against them. And if you're probably Norwegian listening to this podcast, you hate their guts. You hate their guts. But when you're on their side, which I was in this bronze medal match, it was a ride. It was a great, great journey. Their aggressive defense is, I don't know. I've never seen anything quite like that. How open they got in that defense, how high they stepped up on all the Swedish players, and how controlled it all was. There was very few times where Sweden actually did just break through that mess that Spain created. And it's just a lot of fun. And Figueres on the line, after all the shit I gave him in the last podcast as well, and their quality. But I think I stick by my point. It was just the form. Like, if Figueres had a game like he did against Sweden in the semi-final, it could have been a different issue, because he was getting as difficult, passes and setups in this bronze medal match as he was in the semi-final. Denmark were a bit better on the defensive end, but still, if he had a game like that, it could have been different. Especially that little broken wrist lob falling to the side was just a cherry on top for him. 9 from 9. Yeah, great stuff.
So late last night, this wasn't included on the broadcast, or was it? No. I don't think it was included anywhere in the broadcast. I think some people online were a bit confused because the way the EHF do it at Euro events, it's very public and they're handed often golden balls and stuff like that. But this was kind of secret hush hush, and then all of a sudden, about a tweet around midnight, we got greeted with the All-Star team of the World Championship 2023. Andreas Wolf in goal, Nicholas Ekberg right wing, Ludus Fabregas line player, Angel Fernandez left wing, Simon Pitlick left back, Alex Dushabayev right back, Nadim Remeli centre back, Matthias Gitzel top scorer, Matthias Gitzel MVP, Yuri Knorr best young player. Very quickly, is there any one player that you'd swap out?
Just, I think it's one of those cheating all-star teams where you want to include Gitzel and Remeli and Alex Dushabayev and Knorr, so you just give different awards for this. So
where's the best defender?
Yeah, that's probably just assumed Fabregas, because he was already in it. See, if Fabregas wasn't the best line player, they would have made a best defender category and given it to Fabregas. So that's my thoughts on the All-Star team. I think you put Gitzel at right back instead of Alex Dushabayev. Otherwise, I think it's decent. Yeah, nothing too much. On right wing, I had Antonio Arrea, because I needed to give Portugal just a little bit of props. And he went 27 from 31 in the championship. I think he deserved my side. But otherwise, pretty good.
Some pushback online about Remeli being in there as centre-back. I don't know what you thought about that, Chris.
I think Remeli was, we'll go into our alternative awards very soon. But I think Remeli was fantastic all around. Just an all-around great performer. And I think we talked about what he did in the first half of the final. I think this is still a fairly fresh role for him as a playmaker. And he doesn't do it in the classic way, but I really like the way he manages the role. So yeah, I'd be happy. Hey, more left-handers in the team, that's fine with me.
But yeah, Remeli is a playmaker. Dikamem is the right back. Everyone knows that, for France at least.
And so as we do each major tournament now, we have our own alternative awards, and we've kind of stuck to mostly the same categories as we have in other ones, but we did ask our Discord chat for some suggestions on new awards, and we might be adding one or two in there. So the awards we're going to be given this year, the Swiss Army knife, someone who's good at, or can offer a lot at different areas of the court. Swiss cheese, defensive moments, defensive teams, defensive players who kind of are maybe a bit lacking. The Iron Face Award, a goalkeeper who's put his face on the line. The Butter Knife, someone who's really good at one thing and has done it really well, but maybe, I wouldn't say maybe lacks on other areas, but maybe just excels at one good thing, just like a Butter Knife does. Random Rocket, a player who pops up out of nowhere and just nets a random rocket, just laces the ball into the net. Catch Me If You Can, forgotten. This is one for our Discord.
The Catch Me If You Can award is to celebrate the most egregious rule violation, like steps, landing in the area, etc., and someone who got away with it. So we do like that. So that will be part of the category.
We also have breakout player, as well as the classic Adrian Shiposh Award for shithousery. So we start with the Swiss Army knife. Chris, who'd you award your Swiss Army knife to? A player who's good at both ends of the court, offers a lot in different areas.
For me, it was a guy who kind of encapsulated doing everything possible for his team at the championship. there were two people I had in mind for it. I'm not going to mention the one I'm not going to nominate in case you guys have him. But so I am going to go for Egypt's Yahya Eldera. He's my Swiss Army knife for this one because I have had the fortune of seeing a lot of Egypt at this championship, and he is on the stat line one of the guys with the most varied, I think, set of stats in it. He's got 35 goals at 70%, which I think is fantastic. He was great at breakthroughs. Scored 8 goals from the backcourt. Only took 1 penalty for the whole thing, and 32 assists. Only 11 turnovers, so that's pretty good. It's basically 3-1 on the assist to turnover ratio. But also played a big role in the defense in terms of steals and blocks. He wasn't too heavily involved, but he was always at the center of that Egyptian defense and only had 1 2-minute suspension throughout. And every single game, he was just absolutely goosed at the end of it. And that really, it was really encapsulated, particularly in the Germany game, that, you know, the first playoff match from 5th to 8th, which went to extra time, and he was just a superstar in it. And at the end, he was so devastated by it in this placement match. This guy gave everything for the team. We knew he was a great player before. We know he has better years to come as well as he adapts to life in Europe. But I think for this Egypt team, they needed somebody with Yahya Omar out. And for me, he was the guy who really stepped up. He played everywhere in the backcourt for them at a given time. He's my Swiss Army knife.
I like that a lot. Now, Alex, you have a lot to follow there because I think I might be already convinced of who my butter knife is going to be.
Your butter knife.
My Swiss Army knife, sorry. Swiss Army knife.
I found it a bit tough this time around because there's a lot of players that did a lot for their teams, but they were also really, really good, which, you know, part of the Swiss Army knife is kind of that secondary player that can do so much for a team. But I went against that general logic and just said Ludovic Fabregas as the Swiss Army knife because I think he is potentially the best. He's the best two-way line player, both in attack and defense. But when you weigh up his capabilities on the defensive end and on the attack, they're both at such a high level, which is incredible. And the last part that does make him the Swiss Army knife for him is that defensively, he is also incredible at getting steals. So he is the number 1 steals leader in the competition with 14 steals. And that's a lot more than just defending. That's also kickstarting your fast break. And he does that a lot. So he gets assists from that as well. So he's my Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I had Fabregas as well as my Swiss Army knife, just for ultimate defending, decent on the fast break, sets up the defense just everywhere. But I somehow maybe think I'm maybe a bit convinced by Chris's
you shifted
Chris's monologue, so I might have shifted. So what do you think, Alex? Think we should give it to Eldera or Fabregas?
It's tough because the Yahya Eldera is Egypt's best player, or was in the tournament.
In the last podcast, we called Ludovic Fabregas the best player in the world. I'm holding you to account here, Alex.
Yeah, he might be the best player in the world, but he's not the best player in the French team.
Yeah, but he's not the best player in his team. Let's give Eldera some props. I'm good with Eldera. I think, you know, we got to give Egypt some props in this championship.
If we think about the initial winner of this was Christian O'Sullivan, I think Eldera kind of encapsulates that spirit a lot for the team. Good. Congratulations, Yahya Eldera. We go for the butter knife next, or?
Swiss cheese. We'll get that one out of the way. I think it's a bit of a tricky one. What did you go for, Alex, here for Swiss cheese? Chris, did you have one?
I did. Cape Verde as a team. Yeah, a team I had a joy of watching a lot. They were a good handball team. They just had absolutely no interest in defence. And they kind of masked it a little bit in the preliminary round, but in the main round, it really came to the fore. They conceded the most goals in the main round overall, minus 181 goal difference. When you consider that is, what, for 6 games? No, Yeah, was it? No, they conceded 181 goals, not minus 181. That would be pretty extreme. That's Uruguay levels of main round action. No, Cape Verde conceded 181 goals in the main round. In total, the 3 games, 40 conceded against Iceland, 35 against Portugal, and 42 against Hungary. That's some Swiss cheese defending. The keepers never really had a good time. It was all about the attack for them.
Well, actually, let me give a nomination, and it might be a little bit harsh, but I think it deserves it for this championship. And that is, I'm sorry if you're listening, you're a great guy, but the Gabala brothers in the center of Poland's defense get the Swiss cheese. And there's a specific reason. And they just couldn't handle the faster players. They are fantastic defenders. They're a huge center block, but they just weren't mobile enough to play against some of the faster teams in this tournament that really tore them apart. So it's a slightly strange Swiss cheese because they're still great defenders, but in this tournament, they weren't able to adjust to the pace or to the players that were playing against them. And, Poland conceded a lot of goals.
Do you think it's better to have one of them at a time with somebody a bit more agile beside them?
Potentially, I'm not sure who that solution is, or they, maybe change up the defense a little bit because they stand back as a team, but they also don't go too far up on the number 2s. So maybe if you get the number 2s a bit higher and start hassling those fast back players and playmakers, you can funnel those players into that big center court instead of just leaving them exposed in the center. Not fully blaming them.
Metaphorically, the whole Polish team is kind of a Swiss cheese. They're letting their hopes and dreams slide away. Brian, do you have anything?
I just had a team that had historically a fairly decent defence, and now, due to maybe lack of star power, have dropped off significantly over the years, and that would be where Macedonia's defence maybe is at the moment. Obviously, they finished last in their group, couldn't get a result at all, and ended up in the President's Cup, which is a fair drop off for them. So I don't think I did as much research into it as I should have, so I'm very happy to concede on that one. But I do like your Cape Verde one, Chris.
I'd be happy to give it to Poland.
Narrowing it down to players is always a good
harsh way to go.
Approach to good harsh way to go with this.
Let's give it to the Gambala brothers. Congratulations.
There'll be no graphic for that.
The butter knife?
I've got 2 butter knives. One being Lucas Sandell for Sweden, because he didn't play that much in this competition. Lagergren was the number 1 right back for Sweden, and Sandell came on when Felix Clark came on, and then just did kind of the same thing. Felix Clark goes really fast into the center, and Sandell fakes to go outside and goes inside and scores. It just felt like every goal he scored in the competition was that. So that's one nomination for the butter knife. Maybe Chris, give your one.
I have 2 as well. I'll go for the first one. Miguel Hansen.
Oh, that's tough. Okay.
I mean, I went big in the women's Euro, saying Nora Mark. I'm doing the same here.
Penalty merchant again.
We said it earlier. He passes the ball around, kind of same thing. Takes his penalties. He did have a lot of shots from open play this time, but it's always if you close your eyes and picture Miguel Hansen taking a jump shot.
Yeah.
It's his little hop in the center, sidearm shot in. That's Miguel Hansen. A little bit harsh, but I thought I would go big. And the other one I'll go quickly into. It's a positive one. Mads Mensa winning goals in finals. That's all he does for Denmark. Comes in, wins gold. Boom.
But my last nomination was also Danish, and I think it does really. This is really the butter knife, right? No, and that has to be Niklas Kirkelukke. Nikolai Jakobsen and his Danish team, they had a bunch of steak knives, beautiful handcrafted carbon knives that he's using all throughout the tournament. But there's just one thing on the table that all these beautiful knives just can't handle.
Bit of butter.
That's being the number 2 defender.
Spreading that butter.
Bit of butter on the table that he's trying to, Giesel is a big saber and he's just trying to get into that butter dish and it's just like, oh, it's not really working. So he's like, you know what? Nicholas Kirkuluka, you don't even have to shoot. He even said, we don't even need a right winger. Like, you go out there and you have fun. All you're going to do is defend that number 2 in defense. And he did it. He got into that butter dish, spread it out all over that French
baguette.
And French baguette and
Well, you can toast the baguette. But I think just for that monologue alone, I think we should give it to Nicholas Kirkuluka. I really enjoyed that. So I think congratulations, Nicholas Kirkuluka. And just as a bit of a disclaimer, because every single time we give out this award, someone goes, "How dare you call someone a butter knife?" It's actually a very big compliment. It's just they came in, they had one role to do, and they absolutely nailed it. And that's what Nicholas Kirkuluka did at this event. Congratulations also to Nicholas Landin for winning the Iron Face Award. I don't think we need to go through that. We can just say that straight up. I don't need to hear your nominations. Random Rocket Award. I'll start this one, since I do have one here. You mentioned Mads Mensah-Larsen there, and I think his performance in the final coming in, and we said there's going to be changes here for the Danish team. And in our Discord group, we said, Alex said, Mads Mensah-Larsen incoming. And I knew what he was going to do. He's going to come onto the court, not jump, and just throw the ball directly down the middle of the court. He's going to go over the keeper's head into the goal. And he did it twice. And it's just what Denmark needed. And just a random rocket, and you knew he was going to do it. So I think he's a good nomination for the Random Rocket Award.
It's a tough one to beat. I went with Hassan Kada for Egypt as a random rocket because he encapsulates the more random element. I feel like your description of Mads Mensah-Larsen was like a pinpoint missile. Because you know exactly what he's going to do. He does it at random times, so that definitely has the random rocket element. But Hassan Kada was an absolute random rocket in this tournament. He wasn't really given a role for Egypt and the team. He was just thrown on when they were struggling, and the coach said to him, just go out there and shoot. You're a giant man. Get the ball, take 3 steps and shoot and see what happens. And his randomness really showed up in that quarterfinal where he went 4 from 4 to start and then 0 from 3 to finish, all in the space of 15 minutes where he was the only one taking shots.
Yeah.
So he's my
what I
nomination.
like about Hassan Kada is also his when he's looking for the shot, first of all at left back, it's not on, so he just goes around and he's like ends up somewhere between the right back and right wing position and still manages to get, he's just so big. He just manages to get the shot off. I had Joran Johannesson as mine because I feel like he's turning into that kind of player where you really don't know what you're going to get from him. He is going to ping one into the top corner, or he's going to ping one into the nets behind the goal. And it is almost like a random lottery which one is going to come from him, because he is a great shooter when it works, but when it doesn't, it's really bad. And for this championship only, and last night only, with his circumstances, Rasmus Lauge getting 10 goals in the final was like as random as you could get. For me, so there were 2 I had in mind, but I do like your suggestions better. I don't know if your suggestions have influenced each other.
I think now that my one sounds a bit more like a reliable rocket than a random rocket, and I think I probably agree with Alex. So I think maybe we'll go with Hassan for that one. I think that's a good shout.
I think we did give Mads Mensah-Larsen a random rocket before. In his last performance in the World Championship.
Definitely.
I'm pretty sure we gave him.
And if we haven't, then, at one point he's going to get the lifetime achievement for Random Rocket.
I feel like, should we just, to kind of satisfy both parties here, will we just name the award the Mads Mensah-Larsen Random Rocket?
That's a good
award.
ring to it.
And I think once you've won it once, you can't win it again because it's not random the next time. So like I think it's kind of almost a rule you have to be written into.
Yeah.
You can't win it twice because then it's not random. So yeah, I agree. The Mads Mikkel Larsen Random Rocket Award goes to
Hassan Kata.
Okay, catch me if you can.
Just to recap, Catch Me If You Can, it is a new award, so it is a player or a team that gets away with some rule violation consistently. But they do get away with it.
I feel like it's fitting for the Twitter discourse of this championship. It is the new version of France's landing inside from a wing shot. It's the Danish 5-step. We talked about it already. Giesel and Pitlick. It could be the Georgi 5-step even, but the Danish 5-step sounds like a bit of a dance move. But it's actually this thing, which, as we can only tell from replays, actually looks like a 5-step, but in real time, hard to tell. It feels like something they've developed, and I think it's a positive. I think it's a positive step forward or 5-step forward. I don't care. So I'm going for it. I think it is egregious. It is like a blatant way to get past the slowness of the referees. And I have full credit, giving full credit to Pitlick and Giesel for doing it.
We did have a matchup in the final between the two biggest rule breakers, didn't we? We had Denmark and their 5 steps, and we had France with their landing inside. And there was only one winner to that.
Yeah.
Especially because one team didn't get away with it.
I have a feeling though, Dika Mem and Dylan Nahi are gonna learn the Danish 5-step now. They're gonna work on it. That's their summer project, and they'll be back next season taking 6 steps.
Did you see there was one point in the second half where Remily tried it? And he tried to do the step thing, and he just blatantly took like 7 steps, and the referee's like, "What are you doing?" Like, you know, the key to it is you have to be in a tackle or coming into a tackle, and there's a timing to taking those 5 steps, but you can't just take them from left back running up to take a shot like Remily tried to do. Absolutely ridiculous. So the French still have a lot to learn there, but I think it's probably safe to say congratulations to the GOG step. I think we'll call it
The GOG step
for winning. Did we say winning the Catch Me If You Can award? That was mine as well. So mine was also the GOG 5-step.
The nomination from Starfish Robot, who came up with the award, did say Alex Chan for clearly stepping over the line on a penalty shot.
That was hilarious. Because this was not one in the replay, which I noticed, but on commentating the game, while it happened, I blurted out laughing because he so clearly stood over. And the goalkeeper, I think it was against Bahrain, the goalkeeper was so sure of it that he started complaining at the referee before the penalty was even taken then, because he'd stepped over the line so far. He's like, look. And then the shot was just taken past him. Yeah, that was it. That was a good one. But yeah, that was mostly down to poor refereeing, I think.
I think if you look at the
Zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist, I think you have to say that we're leaning heavily on the Danish one here, but that's definitely a good shout out. So I think we'll give it to the GOG step.
Yeah, I agree.
Breakout star.
I think this is...
I have 2 on my list here.
Yeah, I think it's more difficult than you might assume. What are your 2, Brian?
See, I have 2 now, and I feel like they're not really breakout stars because of how good they were. I feel like almost a breakout star is almost someone you don't know of who comes in. And I have 2 here, and I feel like they're not really breakout stars, but I've Yuri Knorr and Simon Pitlick.
I had the same.
But I feel like they've been...
I had the same too.
Yeah.
Because they were just so good. Like, it's okay that they were so good.
But you know, they're almost too established to be... It was just like they were like the focal point of their teams, of Germany and of Denmark. And I feel like a breakout star... I don't know, somehow it's just someone who just comes in and you're like, wow, I didn't expect that, a decent performance, you know? But they were incredible. They were all-stars. So it's almost unfair to call them breakout stars to a certain degree. But what was your thinking there?
Especially Pitlick, he is definitely unknown to the world. Like, he was playing in the Danish league, and he was in the Champions League this year and had some pretty impressive performances. But I think even like the Danish public did not know Simon Pitlick going into this tournament. They weren't. No one was talking about him, and he wasn't even supposed to be that good. I think there was a lot of talk about Yuri Knorr coming into, and he did live up to the hype. But Yuri Knorr was expected to break out. Simon Putlik was not necessarily expected to break out.
I think also because how Yuri Knorr is an incredible talent, but just for maybe how wasteful he can be sometimes. He'll often have like 5 goals from 11 shots or something like that, but is still the focal point of his team. So that I would be kind of maybe leaning a little bit more towards Pitlick, who's not as wasteful maybe, and seems a little bit more mature for his age, and seems to take a little bit more everything in his stride. I mean, when Pitlick got his medal around his neck, I don't know if you saw that, he didn't even look down at the medal. He was just like, oh yeah, just another one. This is going to be one of many coming up. And he just seems so unfazed. Got the medal, wasn't even smiling, medal around his neck, doesn't even look down. If that's a child who gets that, I'm not saying Pitlick's a child, but he's 22, like, you know, you'd be like looking at, oh my God, look, mum, look, I got my medal. He's just like, no, this is nothing. Wait to see what's going to be coming up in the next few years. So just for that alone, I think Pitlick is the man for this award. What do you think, Chris?
I fully agree. Yeah, it was a tough one, but Pitlick, as you both said, you said enough on it. He's come in terms of like public perception, he's come the furthest in this championship, and he's remarkable.
I will give a little shout out. This is maybe not quite a breakout star, maybe just like the late bloomer award has to go to Jean-Pierre Dupois for Brazil, who is a second division French player, 31-year-old, came out of nowhere. He scored 36 goals. He scored 35 goals from 43 shots on the left wing for Brazil, 81%. Put in an incredible performance out of nowhere. So that's just like a little shout out.
That's a great shout out. Yeah, he was really impressive. All right, time for the big one.
The big one, yeah. The main event, the Adrian Shiposh Award for shithousery.
Excellence and shithousery.
Oh, sorry, excellence and shithousery. Excuse me.
You have to be good at the shithousery. You can't just shithouse. Yeah. You also have to be good at it.
Yeah, so Adrian's really quick red card that game maybe wouldn't qualify as excellence because he didn't really get away with it. He just had a really quick red card.
Do have to just commend this Hungarian team because the top 2 players in the whole competition for punishments were number 1, Benza Banhidi, but we've spoken about his approach to defense before. He's more clumsy than Schithauser. And number 2, Adrian Shiposh. They live up to their names.
Yeah. I feel like he's tried to clean up his act as well in the meantime. He's trying to get away with it more. His focus in the second half of the championship was less suspensions, less red cards, and he has progressed there. But he's not my top dog for this. This was a tough one because I have a few like different, almost like subcategories in this. It is really become the most important award of all.
Yeah,
I'll give the headlines for mine, and then I'll go. So more on the shithousery side, the whole Rasmus Lauge being injured thing, brilliant. I mean, just genius. From from one day, we don't know if he's going to actually play, to boom, playing the next day and then ends up winning the whole final.
And just to add to that, the Hansen not being injured thing and then actually being injured. So to add to the
Denmark's whole approach to sharing information. The IHF having extra time in placement matches, brilliant shithousery. That is just like what a way to fuck with us all.
Yeah, I remember listening to your commentary. You're like, this is going straight to penalties, and then they're thrown off. You're like, oh well, here we go.
I think that was a mistake from them.
I think it was a mistake
because so that was so funny because I heard Marcus Floth in the arena. Because I assumed, okay, it will go to extra time. There are the regulations. Then Marcus Floth was like, we're going to penalties. And so I said, okay, it seems we're going to penalties. And then there was this huge discussion with the bench, like with the table officials and all that. And then double extra time. And Egypt involved in 2 of them in the space of 3 days. Also delaying everything in the build-up to the bronze medal match. Hilarious stuff. IHF, go straight to penalties, please. I just don't have these matches, like...
But
it did help me with my prediction of Germany for a bronze medal because Germany finished 5th.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty proud of that. People laughed.
And everyone involved I say everyone, the 2 people involved in the Andreas Palika wrestling incident. Widerson that was shithousery in the first place, leaning on the ball, protecting it, trying to prevent the fast break, and then Andreas Palika losing his shit. Not so much shithousery, but like that was the brutality. It's, shithousery and brutality gets into this, and that was a nice mixture of both. Also because everyone realised quickly afterwards how embarrassing they looked and apologised.
What makes it shithousery as opposed to brutality from Andreas Palika is that he didn't like throw a punch. He didn't like really push. What he decided that he could do was just dry hump Peterson as a starfish. It's like, no one can actually give a red card for dry humping, right?
And I was like, what I loved about it as well is like, you're not trying to get the ball either. Like, you're not doing that. You're just causing the scene here. Like, if you wanted to get you know where the ball is, it's under him. Reach under there and take it and grip the ball. But then grabbing his shirt and kind of just like rowing it like he's going to row a boat or something like that and just causing the scene. I was like, I've never seen that anything like that before in a handball match. So that's why for me that has to get it, I think.
I can't look past that moment either. My nomination was a player, and in general, and that is Miguel Sanchez Miguelon for Spain. He had 9 2-minute suspensions in the tournament, and he does have a real kind of role to break shit up in that defense. He really comes in when Spain are doing their change of momentum, and he kind of comes in and he hits the main player of the opposition team quite a lot in the face. Usually he's a little bit, he only gets 2 minutes for them. So that's the shithousery part. He never got a red card, but he comes in and he's this kind of tall, lanky winger. So you're not expecting, you have a
sorry, I elbowed him in the throat.
Yeah, exactly. And when Spain are a team of the dark arts, I wouldn't put it past him that is part of his role. So
definitely one for the future.
Yes. Maybe the breakout. We'll give him the breakout.
We'll give him the Adrian Chipas scholarship for.
He's part of our grassroots program. God, I love this award so much. This award is the best fun. This one,
yeah.
But so actually, they're both going to get that award because they were both partaking in that.
One doesn't happen without the other, is what I'm thinking.
I would give it to Andreas Palika more, because he also, I feel like he has a shithousery element to him in general. He's really kind of out there. He shouts. Even his saves, like he made a slide tackling save. That is shithousery.
The moment is what wins this one, though, right? And you just like that the reverse angle shot of Fidderson protecting the ball, like you can see a glint in his eyes, like, come on, big boy, what do you got?
yeah. But then also the way he would lie on as well, like he was Christ on the cross, like, oh, I'm just a mere victim here, like, you're not trying to get up, like, just trying to get. He's like, oh, whoa, look at this.
I think Fidderson is one. I like also Fidderson has been a innovator in this championship with his like top spin half court shot from into the empty net. He's got something about him. I feel like this is a co-production. I want to bring these two together.
It's a duet. I think they should both get it.
Yeah, yeah, it's fair enough.
All right, congratulations to Elodie Vidderson and Andreas Palika for that ludicrous moment, which deserves to be remembered in time. All right, that's it.
Thank you, everyone who has joined us for this World Championship. We had a lot of fun. We did the most podcasts that we've ever done for a World Championship, 10 overall, many great guests. And that was thanks to all of you who also signed up for the Patreon. Thanks a lot for joining us on this journey. I hope you enjoyed the extra material, the guests, the chat in the Discord. We really thank you for your engagement. We maxed out a 98 during the championship, so just a couple more to get us to that 100 mark of Patreons. That was a target. And just to say that, do stick with us. We will continue the extra content on the Patreon. We will continue to bring out exclusive podcasts on a more regular basis. The Discord server will still live, and we're going to think of many different things to provide to all of our supporters in the Patreon. Let us know what you want from us, what you think would be a good benefit, and we'll try to make that happen. So stay with us for this journey. It's just a start. It's going to get better and better.
Lovely. Thank you, Alex, as well, for driving the whole Patreon campaign. Thank you, Brian, for your amazing content both of you for your amazing content on Twitter, basically. For those of you who enjoyed all of that was those two. And I had nothing to do with it.
And of course, the last award that we have to give out is Handball Hour MVP. And that goes to Chris O'Reilly for editing every single one of the podcasts, even when myself and Brian committed to editing podcasts during this championship. And he did that on top of how many games of commentary?
Oh, God, I don't know. Too many. No, not too many. Give me more. Not enough.
And it was one of the things he pointed out before the tournament. He was like, guys, just so you know, I won't be able to do editing. Someone else is going to take this on. We're like, yeah, sure. And I opened the program one time and I pulled the files in. And then a message from Chris goes up on the screen, goes, so how's the editing going? And I was like, I've just opened it here. Go on, send it over. I'll do it. You can't learn this on the job.
Yeah. They promise to learn by the next championship.
Oh, God. We'll come good eventually.
That's what your patronage will help. Editing classes for Alex and Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you. Well, the handball is still going on in all the other competitions, and so will we. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.